Good afternoon, all. January,
Almost.
overshot it by a month. Well, that's better than the world did. They overshot it by 3 months. And they did it on purpose with somebody's help. As time marches on, real time, and living becomes more and more manipulated by the minions of the present rulership of this world, I finally, to some degree, can see why most people simply live their lives and accept the information that we're given by our media outlets and the folks behind the scenes who hand the news to their handlers and mouthpieces, save for those who have found Elohim's truth and made a solid decision to fully understand it and, more importantly, to obey it. Once they're sure exactly what it is, you can't obey it exactly until you are close to what it is as you can be. Most people seem to teeter and wobble with every wind of errant doctrine that we are tossed, and we are tossed plenty, especially on YouTube and places like that. The same lies are on the regular airwaves because they think we're sheep anyway. Even many believers seem to be confused in the current climate. But this is not surprising. We have been warned of this, and it was a prophetic warning given by Yeshua, our Messiah himself. We can find it in Matthew, the 24th chapter, the 23rd verse. Matthew, the 24th chapter, the 23rd verse. Then if any man shall say unto you, Lo, here is the Christ, or Messiah, or here, believe it not. For there shall arise false messiahs or Christs, and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, so as to lead many astray, if possible, even the elect. Before I have told you beforehand. Behold, I have told you beforehand. Now, this man in Jerusalem has cured someone else this week. Haven't heard a word on the airwaves, have you? I haven't. I'm getting all my information from YouTube videos, and you know how reliable that is. Some of it's right, some of it's not, but I'm sick of having to read a story and then trace the story as far as possible and then find that it's not a story at all. Well, it is, but it's a story like my mom used to say when we were lying. That's a story, boy. Tell them stories anymore. I'll get something for you. You don't You don't remember those days, do you? Nowadays, you could remove your parents for the home for that, but we're basically crazy at this point anyway, and anybody that doesn't know that, sorry for you. Now, this warning was given before Yeshua was martyred, so it was quite a while back. So many may think that this warning has no bearing on what is happening now. But as believers, we should know to give some weight to these warnings, especially considering the source. Even this source, the Messiah, the true Messiah, has told us of the warning from the temple, soon to be created. That's part of the reason that so few believe these things now. No temple has been created yet. It's going to happen so fast. Just like the people that are blocking these things are happening in Jerusalem now, when the thing is going to be built, we're going to be blocked from that too. One day it's going to suddenly be there, and everybody's saying that, will be saying that it has no consequence to us as a people. To us, at least it's a barometer of where we are in the tale to come. Others will think it's real and to follow the man that comes in that temple. How did he call it in his warning to us of these events from this temple? And the two witnesses we will see killed outside of it or inside of it. Revelation, the 11th chapter, the 7th verse. And when they have finished their testimony, these two witnesses, the beast that ascends out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, and shall overcome them and kill them, and their dead bodies shall lie in the streets of the great city, which spiritually is called, aptly enough, Sodom and Egypt. We're talking about where? Jerusalem? And the one that called it this is the Messiah, our Messiah, Christ. And if anyone should know what's going on in somebody's mind, he should know. The thing is, he called it Sodom and Egypt, where our Messiah was crucified. And those of the peoples and kindreds and tongues and Gentiles shall see their dead bodies 3 days and a half, and shall not suffer their dead bodies to be put in graves. The world and most of Christianity has spiritualized this word away. But these warnings are our guides. And surely they are better guides than what we get from the world. But as I've said before, some of us are more product of our environment than we are believers in Elohim. I'm not pointing anybody out, but I know this is true. So much of what we do on a daily basis, unless we are truly rooted in the Word, is very heavily influenced by this world. Yet everything in this world has been folded, twisted, spindled, and mutilated to the point where little of what is done is as it was originally intended. Many could scream of, as they do, putting Christ back into Christmas. What is Christmas? Haven't heard that in a while. It's still out there somewhere. Just go back far enough and you'll see that it was never there. Unless you mistake him for Nimrod or Horus. Many don't know either of them either. For they went along to get along. Facts be dipped. They were simply doing what the rest of their peers were doing. They don't see it and may never see it in this age. It makes no sense to condemn them as they don't know. It was a point of pride for years for us that we did this. Those days are over. Many who do it now, to those who are looking for links to Hanukkah in order to fit in to their lives, they do it for the kids. In any case, there is no need for condemnation here either. There is no reason to seek the wrong deeds in the lives of others. It is better for us to seek the truth of Elohim for ourselves, for our own lives, not to condemn somebody else's ignorance. If you can do anything for them, shore that ignorance up with your sure knowledge, if it's that sure. It is better for us to abandon our pride and seek the truth of Elohim as it is stated in the Bible. And some things in the Bible are there for us to know. And some of them are there to do. C.S. Lewis said something that made a great deal of sense about this. And it applies here. He said, as long as you are proud, you cannot know Elohim. A proud man is always looking down on things and people. And of course, as long as you are looking down in your state of unjustified pride, you cannot see something clearly that is just above you. The true spirit of Elohim, the true attitude of the Yahweh-led believer, in order to see the truth as Elohim wants it to be seen, we must toss aside our pride and admit that it is not what we do that makes us righteous, but what Yeshua did. If he had not died for us, all the knowledge in the world would have placed us in dark graves, right next to all whom we condemn as somehow less for one reason or another. The only way to truly understand this is to know that this knowledge we have has been given to us. That knowledge alone is not going to save us unless we follow it in complete obedience, not to our own minds, but the dictates of Yeshua, our Messiah. Infuse our being with it and completely obey it, and teach our children to do the same. What? At that point, though, we can't make them do it once they get grown. At that point, you hand off that knowledge to them and take your hands off. And a lot of our pain is drawn to us because we can't take our hands off. And at some point, they have to do it for themselves. And their inability to do so has nothing to do with you if you did it the right way in the first place. Knowing these things, once accepted, is painful. It sets us apart from others. Apart, not above them. It is painful to hear a PhD theologian declare, while looking down in his own way, that the Bible gives no indication of the date of Yeshua's birth. Thus, to those who believe in higher education, without question, it is easy to see why the rest of the world accepts the Christmas story as told in the Word. The world is following this path because it is lucrative. It is also well-traveled. It has an outward veneer of veracity. Thin though it may be, but there is an outward veneer of veracity. That word veneer. Anybody watch Westerns every once in a while? You ever seen those scenes where the town square was right there, and the shot was behind the square, and the whole square was bound up by little poles on the side. There was nothing there but a front. There was no town there. Just the front. That front was a veneer. That's the best way I can explain it. A veneer of veracity that many need now, as every step made now me seems so unsure. A world where any chance to celebrate is anything is welcomed. Any time off from work is welcomed as what it is, time off from work. These prevarications have been in place for centuries. Yet, the world and the truth in them was ignored. It is time to understand that there is a biblical way to calculate to within a week the day that Yeshua was born. And I really, at this point, don't see the proof doing anything for us. Because the proof lines up so perfectly with Elohim's holy days that it makes sense to us to tell this every year to prove its truth. But the only people that it will prove that truth to is the people that are still open-minded enough to believe it when they hear it. That's not many of this world's people. They would rather believe a man, an overweight man, would come down their chimney and not get stuck and leave enough toys for all the little children to, well, they won't enjoy them more than a few minutes anyway, because they're looking at something else on TV and they want that now. This truth, though, is the same as the proof of the true beginning of the year, which is in the spring, when all life blooms and awakens again. There is a parallel here that is not lost on us if we want to live again. That's something else that you... One guy here a couple of years ago came here. Bishop Smothers, I think his name was. And that was the first time I had heard that terminology after all these years. He says, who wants to live? And a couple of hands went up. And he said again, who wants to live again? Everybody's hands went up. That's where we're at now. Trying to live again. To do this, though, we must follow Elohim's program, not man's. And certainly not the program of Satan the devil. Because we are often warned who would change times and laws to make more secure the trap that this world is ensnarled in of his snare, as he surely has them there. Back to the book. Daniel, 7th chapter, the 25th verse. Daniel, the 7th chapter, the 25th verse. He shall speak words against the Most High. Who has done that? Say it quick. Who has spoken words against the Most High? And shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and shall think to change the times and the laws. And he basically changed the times where the days, the years rather, end in the dead of winter. And they end the same way. And they shall be given into his hand for a time, times, and half a time. 3.5 years. Somebody had it right. Obviously, the crux of this prophecy is for the end time, culminating in the last 3.5 years of the tribulation. But the changing of times and laws goes back years. Here it says Antiochus Epiphanes, but the history has gone back farther than that, and has been in place for so long that many have never known any other time schedule than the present one. Many actually believe that days always began at midnight. It's been in place for so long, many don't believe anything else because they've never lived anything else. Yet the Bible makes it clear that this is not what Elohim intended. Genesis, the 1st chapter, the 4th verse. And Yahweh saw that the light was good. And Yahweh separated the light from the darkness. Yahweh called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. What came first? Evening, then morning. How does the world do it? It ends at midnight. Where do you see that in the Bible? Nowhere. All days begin at evening and end at the setting of the next day's sun. This pattern was established and proven by Scripture right from the beginning. Genesis, the 1st chapter. And Yahweh called the expanse heaven, and there was evening, and there was morning, the second day. Down to 13. And there was evening, and there was morning, the third day. 19. And there was evening, and there was morning, the fourth day. Genesis 1:23. And there was evening, and there was morning, the fifth day. Genesis, the 1st chapter, the 31st verse. And Yahweh saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. Note several things here. The days began again in the evening, just as darkness falls. And the next day begins on the next evening, not at midnight. The revealing of this fact is repeated in the Bible to establish the correct pattern for all time. But so few rely on the Bible now. No one sees that anymore. And few have been taught how to see that. Midnight was a change of the start of the day, which, depending on which historical account you read, began in either ancient Egypt or during the manipulations of the Caesars of Rome, whichever is true. It goes against the time frame set by Yahweh Elohim. If people are aware of this, they show little caring of the importance of Yahweh's time and plan. That's sad. But thankfully, Yahweh has a plan which will allow them to learn fully if they don't take the mark of the beast in the coming tribulation first. Once you take that mark, it marks your time here as not going on much longer after that. The change of the months of the calendar were similar in that they were a power grab of the Caesars. Yahweh's days all had numbers. Only the Sabbath actually had a name. The sacred year began in March or April. What Yahweh called the first of the months, or Abib. Notice what he told Moses and Aaron when reteaching them of these things after their time in pagan Egypt, of the true Passover and days of unleavened bread. We'll find this in Exodus, the 12th chapter, the first verse. And Yahweh spoke to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, "This month shall be to you the beginning of months." How clear is that? It's crystal clear. The location is a problem for so many. That's the Old Testament. That we don't even have that in our Bible anymore. And a lot of the Protestant churches have gone to using a half Bible. And that's why I say so many times, not condemning anybody, but marking it for all to see, that some people have half book knowledge. That's what I'm talking about. Two, this month shall be to you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Doesn't get much clearer than that. But, as I said before, it's in the wrong half of the book. The half that nobody reads anymore. Unless they have other books to add to it and other stuff like, well, I won't get into that either because we're not condemning people today. Verse 3, speak to all the congregation of Israel, saying, in the 10th of this month, they shall take to them each a lamb for a father's house, a lamb for a house. And if the house is too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next to his house take according to the number of the souls, each one according to the eating of his mouth. You shall count concerning the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish. They heard that. They're counting the blemishes on these 9 different red heifers that they have found in Israel. Didn't hear about that either. They found them over here in Texas of all places. And they sent 9 red heifers there, and they are going through them now to give them out at the temple that they haven't built yet. This is so confusing, and the devil made it that way intentionally, because most people, when they run into something that confusing, they shut down and go with what they think is right. And it seldom is at that point. A male of the first year, verse 5, you shall take from the sheep or from the goats, and you shall keep it up until the 14th day of the month, of the same month. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. And they shall take some of the blood and strike on the 2 side posts and upon the upper door post of the houses, in which they shall eat it. And they shall eat the flesh in that night, roasted with fire and unleavened bread. They shall eat it with bitter herbs. Do not eat any of it raw or boiled in water, but roasted, its head with its legs and its inner parts. And you shall let none of it remain until the next morning. Anything that remains until the morning, you shall burn. In that manner, you shall eat it, with your belt fastened, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand. And you shall eat it in haste. It is Yahweh's Passover. Note that he said it's Yahweh's Passover, not, as the world says, the Jewish Passover. For I will pass through the land of Egypt that night, and I will strike all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, and beasts. Why did he do that?
With the religious practices and maybe other things that had done with the beast?
Partially. But if they had these animals for a long time, they would know which one was first and the oldest. And you might miscount the first children somehow, but he strikes the beasts and the children. That's not a mistake. That was designed from someone with a shrewd mind. And anybody that at that point that will mistake this for some random something traveling through the universe, that person would be that nomos no mentos or something like that. I forget the term, but it means out of your mind. And I will strike all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, and beasts, and on all the gods, small g, of Egypt. I will execute judgments. In how he finishes the sentence, the best period you can have. I am Yahweh. The blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you are, if you stay inside. Some didn't. The blood shall be for a sign for you on the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and no plague will befall you to destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. This day shall be for you a memorial day, and you shall keep it as a feast to Yahweh throughout your generations, as a statute forever. Why did they stop using the book at some point and at least use this part? Because it stands forever. You shall keep it as a feast. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. On the first day you shall remove leaven out of your houses. For if anyone eats what is leavened from the first day until the 7th day, that person shall be cut off from Israel. Why wouldn't you have this information in your Bible? This is necessary information. Verse 16. On the first day you shall hold a holy assembly. Oh, there it is. They don't do the holy days anymore. Everybody has their own way of getting rid of things, and this is the quickest way. Get rid of that section of the book, and you don't have to do it anymore. And convince everybody else to do the same thing. They don't do it either. You've got more people on your side then. Therefore you shall observe this day throughout your generations as a statute, again, forever. In the first month, from the 14th day of the month at evening, you shall eat unleavened bread. And the 21st day of the month at evening, for 7 days, no leaven is to be found in your houses. If anyone eats what is leavened, that person will be cut off from the congregation of Israel. And this is just some information. On the 12 Hebrew months, or God's months in reality, and the 12 Roman months. And everybody, both of these labels are a little off because everybody was doing it. They say the Hebrew months, but these are the months that were laid out by Yahweh. And the Romans weren't the first ones to do the 12 months either the other way. But their names are on everything. But that's just the way they fought wars back then. as if we don't do that now. Ask anybody in Afghanistan what went on over there when we were there. And we weren't the only ones. Who was there before us? The Russians. But this is what happens when you win a war. You get the history on your side. The first month of the Roman year is named for their god of war, Mars. Second month, April, up to rear. Openings, the time of openings. Their openings, not his openings. Spring. Third month of their year, Maya, growth. Fourth month, June. The goddess of love, Juno. Fifth month, July. Julius Caesar changed the name because he wanted his name on something. He changed July to Julius Caesar. And his little brother, Augustus, 6th month, August. What did August do? Augustus Caesar, August. September, septum, 7 in their eyes. Octo, or October, 8. If you see nothing but that, you think it's right. 9, Novum, or November. By now, we don't have any reasons for it. They just did it because they won the war. December, Decem, 10. All of a sudden they run out. January, Janus, the god of gates and doors. These gates were kept by their gods. Kept anybody out that their gods wanted to keep out. February. February. The month of purification. And the others I'm gonna not go so far into, just to name them. Abib, the first month. Ayar, the second month. Sivan, the third month. Tammuz, the fourth month. Av, the fifth month. Elul, the 6th month. Tishri, the 7th month. Cheshvan, the 8th month. Kislev, the 9th month. Tenth month, Tevet. The 11th month, Shavat. The 12th month, Adar. And every 4 years, there's an intercalary month, or 13th month. When it comes up, that's Adar, the 2nd month. Any questions? Thurman.
Pastor Curtis, some of the Hebrew months' names, aren't they of Babylon origin?
Yes, Tammuz.
Tammuz?
Yep,
Is that the only one?
off the top of my head.
Oh,
That's the only one I see here,
okay.
Tammuz. There might be a couple of others, but everybody doesn't have the same information in there. Concordances and commentaries, and a lot of that information by now is a little bit shaky. Any more questions or comments?
Regarding
Ruby.
the red heifer,
Mhm.
I was watching, like you said, on YouTube. There was a rabbi that was talking about that another rabbi in Australia had given as a gift to Jerusalem 3 heifers,
Mhm.
and they were searching to make sure that there was any blemish.
Mhm.
But they said that, and they heard that the state of Texas
Mhm.
had gifted them some.
Yeah, 9.
This person claims that these are the actual heifers because they had no blemishes.
Mhm.
Because the rabbis in Australia, they had quite a bit of people searching.
Mhm.
And it was kind of terrible to see, because when you see the guys that were helping the rabbis, they were pulling up so hard the nostrils,
Mhm.
making sure with microscopes
Mhm.
and flashlights to make sure that there was not even a blemish inside their nostrils. And I'm thinking, poor heifers, they looked like they were struggling, and they were fighting them, and I just felt so horrible. I had to shut it off, and I thought, my goodness, this is cruelty. But for them.
There's more coming.
For them.
There's more coming.
I thought it just made.
Once PETA gets a hold to this stuff, or any of the animal rights people, this whole thing about sacrificing animals is going to be a thorn in their side.
Didn't they say they had built the temple?
There is going to be one built before.
The temples come after the temple, doesn't it?
Not the way they do it. They know that everything they're doing is unnecessary. It's only necessary to them because they're doing it. Because this is their way of saying that Christ isn't their Messiah. If you look into it, they did the same thing with their whole history. That Wailing Wall That's not the Wailing Wall from the buildings that stood during the time of Christ. If they say it is, though, that means he's a liar. He said everything would be one stone not atop another. And if that wall is still there, he lied. And that's their whole point, to cling to that wall. And you go into it, the history of it, that wall is all that remains of Fort Antonio from the Romish invasion in 70 AD or so. And they jack up their own history to make Yeshua not their Savior. Dwayne.
You asked earlier if you knew anybody who was talking about, what was the word? Against God, blaspheme against God. Said, yeah, well over half our politicians would fit that bill very nicely. And that international character by the name of Harari, particularly. If God doesn't strike him dead with a bolt of lightning, it would surprise me.
A lot of our politicians are going on along with everything Israel is doing because of the pact we just signed. Anything happens in Iran, we're going to attack Iran for Israel.
And yet we support Nazism. Openly.
Yeah, Ukraine. Oops, I said it.
I said that. You said that.
Ukraine.
I don't get too deep into that stuff because it's all hooey anyway.
Pastor? I'm trying to figure out how to say this. With all these scholars of the word, when the scripture says that many will be blinded by the truth, and only the Father gives so much intelligence for those. Well, actually, everything that's in the scriptures a lot of it is mystery. And the scripture says that not even our Lord and Savior knows his coming. So.
That's true. But everybody has their own story.
In my head, I'm trying to figure out how I'm trying to ask this question. That means that the Father allowed all these scholars to actually become blind to the truth, because if they're reading the scriptures, my goodness, the scriptures, it's nothing but the truth, so they're skipping out quite a bit, so they must not have much pages in that they're going by.
Most of them, if you go to the average seminary, I'm just gonna X out all of the derogatory things I've said about it. Anybody that has gone to seminary, the first thing they do when you go in is take your Bible away and give you a set of their books. You learn the Bible from their books. And their books are not the Bible. That's all I can say. Other biblical writings are in their doxologies and so forth. But some of that stuff has been proven to be false. A lot of these books that they get a lot of their factual information from are not the Bible.
But nobody has any questions. I mean, if you're supposed to be so smart, you know.
No, you're not supposed to be so smart about knowledge. You're supposed to be so smart about their curriculum. That's not this. Not this.
You said that some of them don't even do the part of the Bible, it's half of the Bible. So, I don't know,
Sister Sherry has.
Sure.
Because what Lee was saying and what you were saying as well, I went to Revelations 21, Revelations 22 and 18, where it says a warning. For I testify to everyone who hears the words of the prophecy of this book. If anyone adds to these things, Yahweh will add to him the plagues that are written in this book. And if anyone takes away from the words of the book of this prophecy, Elohim shall take away his part from the book of life, from the holy city, and from the things which are written in this book. And this is the Father's book.
And it's Revelations 22.
Yep.
Revelations 22, verse 18.
for the city that don't know where to
That's the proper word right there.
They don't believe it.
They don't believe
They
it.
don't believe it.
They don't read it. They don't believe it because that's not from their scholars. They don't believe it because it's not from their scholars. And everybody has their own. The best thing that you can do at this point, if you have a valid Bible, most of us do, read that Bible. Anything else you read, it's going to be on shaky ground. Anything else you read, no matter. Well, they will. They will.
Nobody's scared.
Somebody says all the time, that fire get close enough to they behind, they'll believe it. Where are you, Melina? Ruby.
And you know, Pastor, they're coming up with these new age ministers, and they're young.
Yep.
They're in their 20s. And they have such great followers. So many. And when I've seen a couple of clips of them, and it's scary because they look like they're in a rock concert. They're hollering and screaming, and it's just horrible. And I'm thinking, what are they possibly teaching them that they can have it? But you know what? Like even since the elect, I'm not saying that my family is part of it, but it's sad because this week a get-together was canceled with my nephew because they were all saying, you know how that claims they say we're doing it because of the children. They were all Sabbath keepers, and my nephews were waiting for my sister and everybody else to gather. And I've not answered to any of their chat groups because they were saying, I'll bring this and bring that. We're going to have a Christmas box where you pull out names and give each other, and you could only spend 20. And I was asked, Ruby, are you going, my cousin Naomi asked, Ruby, are you going to go? Says, why would I go to confusion? They know better, but they blinded themselves. Do you imagine if I were to go there? All my great nephews, when they ask me, Thea, why aren't you doing it? If I tell them the truth, what do you think is going to happen? Right now, they don't invite me for anything, but they say, hey, this is the end of the year. Let's get together because of the kids. And they got pictures with Christmas trees, and I'm thinking, you're kidding me. You become that blind and that ignorant? And I told my cousin that, and she responded. I said, you know what? You're right. it would be confusing if you were to go, because you would be confusing the children. And I said, you know what, I'd rather not argue with them, because they know where I stand.
You know what,
And
you
why
know.
should I go argue and complain and break apart? Let them do their thing. If that's what they feel that they have to do, then go ahead, just be careful. And
Yep.
guess what? My sister has, right now, she's in urgent care because she can't seem to breathe well. She's having a lot of pain. Reina came down with a cold. Obed, my brother, gotten sick, he didn't feel good, and my nephews had the fevers and cold, and they were hospitalized. Just a lot of crazy stuff, and my daughter, Reina, says, Mom, I'm not sure what's happening. We were all supposed to get together and look what's going on. I said, great. He said, why are you saying great? We're supposed to get, because that is not of the Father. Right there is telling you, this was not a way for you guys to get together. Why do you guys have to do it in the time where people are celebrating, giving gifts and saying Merry Christmas and all that? Look at the music that they're playing. What possibly do you hear any scriptures reading out or sung? People are not sitting together reading the scriptures, going to churches, they're partying.
They don't even ask me.
No. It's
They gave up on it.
confusion.
We
It's
didn't hear.
confusion. So that's why we have to be careful.
I don't need to go to the family with Thanksgiving. You don't say anything. All right.
Mhm. Just like I said, it's just another reason to party. Mhm. Thurman.
Pastor, when you were speaking about how the devil made his deceptions confusing on purpose, I thought of the verse in 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 13, where it says, "But evil men and impostors will grow worse and worse, deceiving and
Being deceived.
It was all deception, all they're deceiving the other masses under them, but they're being deceived at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
If I could just throw one more thing in there, chapter 4 of the same epistle, verses 3 and 4. For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but according to their own desires, because they have itching ears, they will heap up for themselves teachers, and they will turn their ears away from the truth and be turned aside to fables."
Mm-hmm. That's what's happening. That's what's happening.
And something else, everybody else is doing it.
Yeah. Well,
That's everybody.
well, they heard somewhere this was a democracy, and that's where a real democracy works. The most people have on your side, you win. I read somewhere where 144,000 are going to take on all the armies of the world and win. I don't know where I heard that. In here, I think. Any more?
I have a question.
Yep.
Thurman, did you read, that was Timothy,
Yeah.
did you do chapter, was that
I
20?
read out of 2 Timothy chapter 3 and chapter 4.
Okay, I want to go with Timothy for 1 second, Pastor. Verse 6.
First Timothy?
First Timothy,
Okay.
chapter 6 and verse 20, it says, "O Timothy, guard what was committed to your trust, avoiding the profane and the idle babblings and contradictions of what is falsely called knowledge. By professing it, some have strayed concerning the faith."
Perfect.
Yep.
Well, and how do you deceive the best? By little tidbits of truth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Deception, and that's how you do it.
And then some people that heard the truth, they go back to this stuff.
And they make it very colorful.
And go back.
The biggest thing, though, is if you're not in a situation where you're reading it every day, you can get far enough away from the book and you don't know where anything is anymore. And most people, they get to that point. I got to it after the strokes and wrote in, I read at least one page every day. Most days nowadays, a lot more than that. But the farther away from it you get, the farther away from it you got to travel to get back into it. And there's a point where you don't get to bother anymore because you don't want to accept anything else breaking up your day anymore. And a lot of people don't do it because they have gotten so out of it until they think it's going to be that much harder to get back into it. The same stuff is there. Get back in there and get back to it.
It took me a long time to understand Pastor told me this years ago. How can you go back, like, when you learn something, and you go back to it, and instead of you read it first, but if you learn something, you taught me, how can you go back? But they go back to the world. Christmas and,
They justify it.
yeah.
Life situations can justify it for you. A new child, I have to steep this child in the traditions. Whose? The world's or the Bible's? And most people pick the world's because you got a lot of people that are giving your child stuff along with you. He wants your stuff piled up in his crib, and you give away the Bible. That stuff is going to be there. One fire, that stuff was gone. The baby too.
And like the world religious leaders and otherwise, Lord, the saints, through the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life with covetousness, the different trappings and things that they have. Look how beautiful the holidays are and all of this stuff is. To, attract those senses, the carnal man within the person is something to be drawn toward all this stuff.
All is vanity.
As we said, vanity.
The thing is, everybody thinks that second place is no place to be. But when you're dealing with the devil, he's second place behind the smartest mind in the universe. If you don't perceive the stuff from the finest mind in the universe, how easy is it for the second place guy to fool you? And you don't even place. You don't even place. He's gonna get you because he's gonna get you first, because if he doesn't get you, he loses. And he's got most of us already. Ruby.
Brother Thurman said something so true, the attraction. And people desire to be part of that attraction, what causes them to want to, let's see, it doesn't hurt just a little bit. And as much as I pray every morning, and my daughter surprised me with something. She got up early and a couple of days ago. And I said, Mama, what were you doing that you had to reach? She says, Crystal's mom needed me. And she goes, I'll tell you back when I come back. And then she tells me this, so cheerful, Mommy, guess what? Because she was showing me all the ornaments and whatnot. She called me and I put the tree up. I helped them put the tree up and I decorated it further. Pastor, I just froze.
Yeah, nothing you can do at this point. Like I said in the sermon,
And I just got her face and her sister says, I'm praying for you, Mija. And she goes, okay.
yep,
The fact that
she doesn't believe it anymore.
she, right.
That has nothing to do with you. You did your part.
It choked me pretty bad. I had to go to the room and cry and pray, but I didn't condemn her. I didn't get mad. I
You
didn't tell her
can't.
off.
It's on her at this point.
I said, Father, just please take those blinders from the kids. Yes.
The thing is, we're up on that time right now when the things that, if you have been a student of war at all in this world, the little wars, the little riots and stuff, no, most of that stuff you have not seen except on television. The little stuff was scary enough. A little bit of this and a little bit of that I've gone across in my life. The stuff that I have gone through is little stuff beside what's coming. The stuff that I ran through had me cowering in a corner of the house. Riots and stuff. Martin Luther King's riots. That's the biggest thing I've gone through. And there were times when the whole neighborhood was on fire. But that's little stuff. Whole countries on fire. Your money worthless. We haven't gone through that yet. It's coming.
Is there anything new under the sun?
It's going to be new to us.
Yeah, to our generation.
It's new to us, but that's not new. But the thing is, we're not accustomed to these things, and we don't expect to live through them, but we don't have enough faith yet for Him to guide us through them. It's already been done. Nobody had stores of goods in their packs when the Red Sea divided. He got them through it though. And the ones that didn't look back, they had a better time going ahead than the ones that looked back. And the ones that looked back didn't read about Lot's wife. All of this stuff connects up if you connect it up and not divide the book into parts. It's all there. But the better you chop it up, you don't chop it up so fine that you read it one verse at a time. But it's all there like this. You got to read it like that to get anything out of it. And it takes time to do that. And everybody waiting for me to do it. That's mine. Who's doing yours? I'm only here one day a week. There's 6 days in the week. What you doing the other 6 days? Nobody's calling me too much.
Pastor, excuse me, what was the title of this?
There wasn't one. First time, there wasn't one.
Beware confusion.
Well, you want to give it one, fence-straddling time is over. I erased that title because it was so far afield from what I was talking about, but if you want one, there it is. Fence-straddling time is over.